Hi, friends and family. We're back again. And, what day is it today, Jim?
Well, right now, this is Tuesday the 6th, and we're talking about Monday the 5th.
Oh, that's right.
Monday the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So, on Monday the 5th, kind of the big picture is we got up in the morning, we went down, and had to be really quick with a breakfast buffet, did a run through. This time I remembered the camera, and so as I ran through the buffet, I snapped pictures. And we'll talk about that. And then we're going to visit the Rabin Museum and go out of town. We're moving out of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have to be out, have our bags out by 7:30 in the morning. So the breakfast buffet, we keep talking about it, and it's lovely. I mean, there's a station for various cheeses, and then there's one for breads, and then there's one for especially sweet baked goods. We've got some of this written down here. There's another section that's a vegan section, and then there's a section of salads and another section of salads. There was an area of juices. And then one that we wrote down as kind of baked cheese and egg dishes. And then one with pancakes and danishes. And then some local miscellaneous dishes like hummus and labna and dates and something called a labana and caprese salads, and then there was morning desserts, fruits, yogurts, and juices. And you try a sample of this and a sample of that. Pretty soon you've got 5 plates full of things. And the important thing was that over our time there, we learned to be more prudent in our choices, and especially if we didn't have a lot of time. So, is there anything else you wanted to say about the breakfast?
Only thing I want to say is it was wonderful. The foods were incredibly fresh, and there was this niggling feeling at times of overconsumption, and what happens to all that food that's on the buffet that isn't eaten, that they're refilling. So that feels a little awkward to me to have that situation, but
yeah, it'd be nice
not much to do about it at that point.
It'd be nice to know that they donated the excess foods or
Right.
something. And then
next, we loaded up on the bus, and Jim and I, as many of you would probably guess, were the last ones on the bus, but partly because we had left the group earlier the day before, and our instructions were 8:30, and then he changed it to 8:20, and he was sending out WhatsApp messages that we didn't see. So anyway, we did get on the bus, everything was fine. We got to the Rabin Museum. And you may recall, Yitzhak Rabin was a part of the Oslo Accords, supportive of the Oslo Accords, which brought peace supposedly, between the Palestinians and the, Israelis, and the idea of potentially partition of 2 different governments. He was a real believer in that, even though he had been part of the 6-Day War and was in the military. But Israeli society as a whole was not all in favor of the Oslo Accords. And from what we were told, it was around 50-50, with 50% of the people supporting peace and 50% just so rabidly against it. And we also watched a video on the Rabin assassination before we left home. And what's sad is Rabin was assassinated by a person who was an Orthodox Jew and felt that Rabin had committed treason by supporting the Oslo Accords, and therefore it was legitimate to kill him. So there's a lot of discussion about violence itself in the Israeli society, and the museum is a really good place to talk about conflict and Rabin and his life and the history of Israel as well. So that was interesting. Although we didn't spend a lot of time there, we loaded up the bus again and headed out of town. Do you want to say something about the ride, Jim?
Yeah, so we were driving from Tel Aviv on the Mediterranean coast up through parts of Jerusalem and down the other side across the Jordanian border to a hotel on the Dead Sea, just a little ways down on the west side of the Dead Sea. And so it was an interesting transect across the country. We started out driving in the highly secular, very modern, big, tall, high-rise buildings of Tel Aviv. And as we went west, we went through suburbs and then a more rural area with a lot of farms and so forth that had been heavily irrigated and were working pretty well. And then the population got scarcer and the area became more and more arid and rocky, and pretty soon there were large areas that didn't have any houses or really any agriculture, but you would see large clusters of homes. And I don't know if these were settlements or what they were. And we started gaining altitude and ended up going through up to Jerusalem. I mean, we went from sea level up to 2,500 foot. And as the further we went and the closer we got to Jerusalem, the more walls were evident. There was barbed wire in places, and you couldn't really tell if the walls were to keep people in or keep people out. It was, for me, very confusing that way. And finally, we got up to Jerusalem with a much more traditional architecture, and then started back down on the other side.
And I could say we never got into Jerusalem proper. We were on the highway outside of it, going around it. We could see into parts of it, but we'll be seeing Jerusalem later in the trip.
Right. Anyways, and then we came down on the other side and crossed over the Jordan River and went through immigration to go into Jordan, and then proceeded to go even further downhill, so that we got to the Dead Sea and we were at 1,400 foot below sea level. And let's see, what else do we want to say
I
about
think
that?
you wanted to contrast that with the 2,500 feet above sea level in Jerusalem,
So
and 1,400 feet below sea level on the Dead Sea.
Right. So a big altitude change and temperature change, and around the Dead Sea, it looked like the Badlands. It was just barren desert there.
It is.
Anyways, yeah, and there were these views along the side of we think are Palestinians in tents and shanties, maybe tending goats and sheep. This is in Israel and in Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that does bring me back to something that our guide told us, because I asked him about Palestinian refugee camps in Jordan. And he pointed out, which I had heard about, that actually the West Bank was part of Jordan until the 1967-68 the
67
war. So people freely went between the West Bank and Jordan. And his family had actually been Palestinian, but had moved to Jordan and had been completely integrated in Jordan. He went to college in Jordan and has made a good living in Jordan. So the Palestinians on the West Bank that wanted to immigrate had been incorporated into Jordan. But he said the people from Gaza were not. So people from Gaza that are refugees in Jordan are still refugees, and some in camps, because Jordan will not recognize them as citizens, because they don't want to give space to Israel to try to do something, get land in Gaza. So they're sort of people from Gaza are people without a country, because they're stuck in Gaza and can't get out without permission from the Israeli government to travel. So it's not good if you're from Gaza and you're in Jordan or Gaza.
Right.
Let's see.
So we got to the hotel.
And
it's a very nice hotel. They say it's 5-star, and it's probably down at the heels 5-star.
Yeah.
5-star.
But it's nice.
Yeah, it's huge, and they've got 4 swimming pools plus some private pools and spas and so forth. The biggest feature to it is that it's on the Dead Sea, and so you can walk down to the Dead Sea, and we did.
And we did walk down to the Dead Sea, and you can do like a mud spa. There's a dish, and you reach your hand in and you get mud, and you spread the mud all over yourself, and then you go into the Dead Sea and rinse it off. And there's so much sailing in the Dead Sea that you actually float. So we've got some great pictures of us floating in the Dead Sea. And also, we took the mud bath, so we have a few mud bath pictures.
I'm so used to having to try to keep myself floating that my neck is
I think you just sit.
Just sit down and there you go. Judy. Oh my God. Just don't put it in your eyes. Is that scary? Yeah. I know.
There you go.
There you go. Oh my God. I know. Uh-huh. I can't get up. Tuck into a ball. I'm so buoyant I can't even get up. Yeah. If you tuck into a ball. Well, Jim, you want me to get your picture?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I still have black stuff on me. Oh, it's wonderful. It's really cool. Okay, you ready?
Okay, here, wipe the salt on my bathing suit. Okay, just wipe your hands off on my bathing suit. Oh.
I can't get all of it off.
That's all right.
Okay.
Here you go. It's still running.
Okay. Oh. All right.
Ah.
Act like you're going to sit down. Okay, Alice. Alice.
All right.
You know me in cold water.
I know, you just have to sit. You can't really. Yeah. Backwards, go backwards. Ah, there you go. And your hands can come out. You don't even need them. Is that weird or what?
You first.
There's no central light in
Yeah. Yeah, I think the minerals in the mud bath are supposed to rejuvenate your skin or something.
Yeah, right.
And I think we washed it off before we got rejuvenated.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The mud was starting to sting a little bit. I don't know what's in it, but yeah. So, but it was a long ways down from the resort to the Dead Sea itself. A long trek down.
Yeah.
A lot of stairs. They had these little golf carts that would take you down part way. And so, it was very interesting. So, and then, to top it all off, after floating in the Dead Sea, we came back up, showered, and went to a huge buffet at the new place. Just incredible, the amount of food and how fresh it is and how good it is. Did you want to say anything more about that?
The buffet was great. I'm getting fatter by the day. So, let's see if we can put some pictures to this and ship it out. Okay?
Sounds good. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.